It has been a hard and a painful period for me and my family, especially as others feed ugly stories to the press. But I cooperated with the review, and I can now finally share the truth. My attorney, who is a non-political former federal prosecutor, has done a response to each allegation, and the facts are much different than what has been portrayed. That document is available on my website. If you are interested, please take the time to read the facts and decide for yourself. First, I want you to know directly from me that I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances. I am 63 years old. I've lived my entire adult life in public view. That is just not who I am, and that's not who I have ever been. There is one complaint that has been made that bothered me most. That was a complaint made by a young woman, Charlotte Bennett, who worked in my office. And it's important to me that you fully understand the situation. Charlotte worked in my office last year as an assistant. She was smart, talented, and eager to learn. She identified herself to me as a survivor of sexual assault. She said that she came to work in my administration because of all the progress we had made in fighting sexual assault. She talked about the personal trauma that she endured and how she was handling it. I could see how it had affected her. I could see her pain. People now ask me, why was I even talking to this young woman if I knew she was dealing with such issues? Why did I even engage with her? That is the obvious and fair question, and one I have thought a lot about. The truth is that her story resonated deeply with me. I had heard the same story before, with the same ugliness, the same injustice, the same damage. Not only had I heard the story before, I had lived with the story before. My own family member is a survivor of sexual assault in high school. I have watched her live and suffer with the trauma. I would do anything to make it go away for her, but it never really goes away. I spent countless days and nights working through these issues with her and therapists and counselors. I'm governor of the state of New York, but I felt powerless to help and felt that I had failed her. I couldn't take the pain away. I still can't. And this young woman brought it all back. She's about the same age. I thought I had learned a lot about the issue from my family's experience. I thought I could help her work through a difficult time. I did ask her questions I don't normally ask people. I did ask her how she was doing and how she was feeling. And I did ask questions to try to see if she had positive, supportive dating relationships. I know too well the manifestations of sexual assault trauma and the damage that it can do in the aftermath. I was trying to make sure she was working her way through it the best she could. I thought I had learned enough and had enough personal experience to help her. But I was wrong. I have heard Charlotte and her lawyer, and I understand what they are saying. But they read into comments that I made and draw inferences that I never meant. They ascribe motives I never had. And simply put, they heard things that I just didn't say. Charlotte, I want you to know that I am truly and deeply sorry. I brought my personal experience into the workplace, and I shouldn't have done that. I was trying to help. Obviously, I didn't. I am even more sorry that I further complicated the situation. My goal was the exact opposite. I wish nothing but good for you and for all survivors of sexual assault. There is another complaint I want to address from a woman in my office who said that I groped her in my home office. Let me be clear, that never happened. She wants anonymity, and I respect that. So I am limited but what I can say. But her lawyer has suggested that she will file a legal claim for damages. That will be decided in a court of law. Trial by newspaper or biased reviews are not the way to find the facts in this matter. I welcome the opportunity for a full and fair review before a judge and a jury, because this just did not happen. Other complainants raised against me questions that have sought to unfairly characterize and weaponize everyday interactions that I've had with any number of New Yorkers. The New York Times published a front-page picture of me touching a woman's face at a wedding and then kissing her on the cheek. That is not front-page news. I've been making the same gesture in public all my life. I actually learned it from my mother and from my father. It is meant to convey warmth, nothing more. Indeed, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of photos of me using the exact same gesture. I do it with everyone, black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street. After the event, the woman told the press that she took offense at the gesture. And for that, I apologize. Another woman stated that I kissed her on the forehead at our Christmas party and that I said, "Ciao, Bella." Now, I don't remember doing it, but I'm sure that I did. I do kiss people on the forehead. I do kiss people on the cheek. I do kiss people on the hand. I do embrace people. I do hug people, men and women. I do on occasion say, "Ciao, Bella." On occasion, I do slip and say sweetheart or darling or honey. I do banter with people. I do tell jokes, some better than others. I am the same person in public as I am in private. You have seen me do it on TV through all my briefings and for 40 years before that. I try to put people at ease. I try to make them smile. I try to connect with them. And I try to show my appreciation and my friendship. I now understand that there are generational or cultural perspectives that, frankly, I hadn't fully appreciated. And I have learned from this. Now, the state already has an advanced sexual harassment training program for all employees, including me. But I want New York State government to be a model of office behavior. And I've brought in an expert to design a new sexual harassment policy and procedures, and to train the whole team, myself included. I accept responsibility, and we are making changes. Other complaints relate to the work environment. Now, I have always said my office is a demanding place to work, and that it is not for everyone. We work really, really hard. My office is no typical 9-to-5 government office, and I don't want it to be. The stakes we deal with are very high, sometimes even life and death. We have to get the job done. I promised you that I would, and I will. But now, a number of complaints target female managers, which smacks to me of a double standard. First, when have you ever seen male managers maligned and villainized for working long hours or holding people accountable or for being tough? A strong male manager is respected and rewarded, but a strong female manager is ridiculed and stereotyped. It is a double standard. It is sexist, and it must be challenged. Also, remember where we are. Today, we are living in a superheated, if not toxic, political environment. That shouldn't be lost on anyone. Politics and bias are interwoven throughout every aspect of this situation. One would be naive to think otherwise, and New Yorkers are not naive. I understand these dynamics. My father used to say, God rest his soul, that politics is an ugly business. As usual, he was right. But for my father and for me, it's worth it, because despite it all, at the end of the day, we get good things done for people. And that is what really matters. And for those who are using this moment to score political points or seek publicity or personal gain, I say they actually discredit the legitimate sexual harassment victims that the law was designed to protect. My last point is this. I say to my daughters all the time that as complicated as life gets is as simple as life is. My job is not about me. My job is about you. What matters to me at the end of the day is getting the most done I can for you. And that is what I do every day. And I will not be distracted from that job. We have a lot to do. We still have to manage the COVID beast. It is not dead yet. It's not over. We then have to reopen and reimagine our state, because our future is going to be what we make it. I know we can do these things because I know the strength and the character of New Yorkers. Look at the progress we made on COVID. It is amazing. We went from the highest infection rate in the country to one of the lowest infection rates in the country. Nobody thought that we could do it, but New Yorkers did it. That shows that there's nothing that we can't do when we work together. Together as one community, as one family, as New Yorkers. We will. Thank you. Over the past several months,
and you just heard from Governor Andrew Cuomo there in New York responding to the outcome of a 5-month investigation on behalf of the New York Attorney General. A 5-month investigation of 179 individuals, including executives within his office, all the way to a state trooper who was assigned to protect them. All females coming forward and giving their accounts of sexual harassment. Multiple women talking about unwanted groping, kisses, hugging, inappropriate comments by the governor of New York. You just heard his response, the first time we have heard from him since this investigation began. I'm going to take you back to an exact quote as he started off. First, I want you to know directly from me that I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances. So to every allegation that was made here within this 5-month report, the governor coming forward saying now that he has never, ever touched anyone inappropriately. He goes on to say, I'm 63 years old. I have lived my entire adult life in public view. This is not just who I am. On the phone with us now, Dan Abrams, chief legal analyst for us here at ABC News, working actually to get him on the phone. Just to give you a little detail of this investigation that was done by Attorney General of New York, Letitia James. 5 months, 179 individuals, more than 74,000 pieces of evidence. We're talking about audio, pictures, texts, emails. The Attorney General going on to say in a press conference that all of those pieces of evidence proved a disturbing and clear picture of sexual harassment by multiple women, talking about unwanted groping, inappropriate touching, kissing, hugging, and comments made by the governor of New York. Now on the phone with us, Dan Abrams, chief legal analyst for us here at ABC. I guess, Dan, you've been following this since the press conference when Letitia James came forward talking about this investigation that is now complete. For the first time, we are hearing from the governor saying in no way, shape, or form are any of those stories true, any of those allegations. What stood out to you from what you just heard, besides a bit of an interesting montage of numerous pictures of the governor kissing all types of people, saying, look, this is just who I am. This is my character. This is not abnormal for me to show love and affection to people and everybody I meet.
So he has used an interesting strategy here with regard to the various allegations, right? Because if you look at the report, there are a number of people who've made different kinds of allegations. And what the governor has done is he has singled out a couple to respond to them specifically, and then kind of more broadly responded to the others, right? And so I think that, the challenge for him is going to be that when he, concedes that, he has kissed and hugged and this and that, that doesn't answer the question about the unwanted nature of the contact. And even if you take everything he's saying at face value, right, let's assume it's true, and we see through the pictures, he has done this before, he has hugged people, he has kissed people, he has done, that doesn't change when you look at it through a legal prism, and we're talking about civil mostly, the question of whether it was unwanted or not. Because a kiss to one person could be an assault to another. And so it's very important to think about that when evaluating this legally. But let's remember that what the Attorney General's report here is not quite a legal document, meaning it has been done by lawyers. She has been empowered to do this. She is the Attorney General of New York State. But if there was going to be any criminal action, for example, it would have to come from local district attorneys. If there was going to be any additional civil action, it would have to come from the people involved. And so, this is a report that is being handed over to an assembly that is doing its own investigation. So the question now is, what happens now? And as the governor pointed out, if this is going to get actually litigated, that would have to be in a courtroom with a specific, identifiable claimant, and we'll see if that happens.
Okay, so let's start with the emergency session that's going on right now with the Assembly, because we learned about an hour ago that's what's happening. So can they come together, Dan, and force him to resign, or does he have to say, I am going to step down? Let's start there. How does the process go, Assembly versus the governor, and then we can kind of unravel sort of the other issues to look forward to with regard to possible legal cases?
So forced resignation is really just another way of saying leverage, because there's no such thing, right? In the end, as you point out, he would have to decide, I'm going to step down. Clearly, he's not prepared to do that. And so it seems that the only way that would happen is if there was, an overwhelming number of votes to impeach, and even then he might decide to fight it. So I think that those who are hoping for a resignation on the part of the governor are likely to be disappointed.
All right, now looking forward to civil charges, criminal charges, do we need to see a number of these individuals? 179 individuals were interviewed. Do they now have to come forward and pursue charges and take legal action? How does this unfold now from here with regard to actual charges being filed?
Right. So let's remember, the 179 are not accusers. There are 179 witnesses who were called. It seems that there are primarily 11 or so people making accusations. And, you know, again, the way that, and it's important to distinguish between sexual harassment and sexual assault as a legal matter, right? As a legal matter, sexual assault is a crime. As a legal matter, it can also be subject for a civil lawsuit as well. But as a legal matter, sexual harassment is something where it is a civil violation. And so the result would be money damages. And so the difference is in deciding whether to bring criminal charges, that's the government. That's the district attorney. In deciding whether to bring civil action, that would be an individual. But remember that it's interesting that for a couple of these cases, there would have been statute of limitations issues, but the governor, in the wake of COVID, actually extended the statute of limitations for all sorts of potential violations, which might allow certain people to still sue.
So 11 plaintiffs, 9 of them New York employees. As you pointed out, he addressed 2 individuals. What does that tell you? If indeed he felt like he was completely clean here, should he have addressed all 11 plaintiffs and the complaints put forward?
Right. So they're not plaintiffs all, right? There are, this is still an independent investigation, not a civil lawsuit. What the governor would say, I mean, again, should he have? I mean, look, as a matter of, if you're in the governor's camp, right, he probably handled it the best way he could, which is to address the ones that are the most significant and the ones that he feels he needs to be most specific about, and then to be more general in responding to the rest of them. If you are one of the people in the Attorney General's office or involved in this investigation, your position is going to be, well, that explanation doesn't begin to do it. So it really depends on what prism you're looking at this through when evaluating what happened here. And look, and the issue is that some of the allegations are more serious than others. I mean, that's a reality. And so, but from the governor's perspective, it's probably best not to respond to some of the less serious allegations. And I say serious, people sometimes get offended when those of us in the law sort of rate how serious. Someone says, well, it's still awful, et cetera. But in the law every day, we make decisions about first degree and second degree and misdemeanors and felonies, et cetera. And so I think that kind of evaluation has to be done in evaluating the severity of the various allegations against him.
Dan Abrams, appreciate it so much. Our chief legal analyst here at ABC. Aaron Katursky, investigative reporter for us here at ABC. He was there for Letitia James' press conference, the New York Attorney General. He also just listened to Andrew Cuomo's, the governor's response to that investigation. First of all, what stands out to you, Aaron? We sort of talked about what he has said in the past, and that is he has pretty much denied these allegations, which is exactly what he did today. Even offered a bit of spin, according to the Attorney General, in other circumstances. But he did, as Dan pointed out, only address 2 of the cases, whereas the investigation reveals more than that.
With Charlotte Bennett, he said that he was comparing her to a family member who had suffered sexual abuse as a high school student and thought he had learned lessons in dealing with that family member that he could apply to Charlotte Bennett, was genuinely concerned about her, and said that any inappropriate touching, as alleged, was not meant that way, that he was really trying to help. And an unnamed executive assistant in the 168-page report from the Attorney General, who said that the governor at one point reached under her blouse and grabbed her breast. The governor said that flatly did not happen. Other interactions and other gestures, the governor said, had been weaponized by the Attorney General and her investigators, as he flatly seemed to reject the entire premise of the investigation, and chalking much of it up to politics and bias, even showing pictures of him kissing luminaries like Bill Clinton and Al Sharpton, even the Attorney General Letitia James herself, trying to show that these are everyday gestures for Governor Cuomo, not something that, in his words, should be weaponized for the purposes of a report that he believes is meant to take him down.
So the Assembly right now is meeting in an emergency session. Any insight to what is happening, how long this could go, and what this could mean for the governor with regard to impeachment, with regard to encouraging him to step down? What are the options here?
We know the legislature has been taking a look at a number of these allegations over the last several months on a parallel track with the Attorney General's office, but the Assembly very quickly convened in an emergency session. They did not know that the Attorney General was going to make the announcement or portray the report the way she did today, so they very quickly convened an emergency session. We heard from the Speaker of the Assembly, Carl Heastie, who said that the conduct described in the report is not the conduct of someone fit to be governor of the state, but he did not go as far as to say that there should be impeachment proceedings or that the governor should be removed. We've certainly have heard plenty of calls for his resignation or removal from other members of the state legislature. So it's very well possible, Kira, that by the end of the day, those impeachment proceedings could formally begin.
And one last quick question, Aaron, if you don't mind, because clearly I'm not a lawyer, and I'm just listening to what Letitia James laid out in the outcome of this 5-month investigation, and then listening to the governor respond and talking with Dan Abrams about the legality of things here. Just so I understand, they talked to 179 individuals. Dan made that clear, that these are witnesses. But when we're talking about actual individuals who came forward and said, he sexually harassed me in one way or another, he either said something to me, touched me inappropriately, they used the terminology 11 plaintiffs, 9 of whom New York employees. Is that correct? Is that how we refer to them?
I think 11 complainants is probably the best way, 9 of whom are current or former employees. They're not plaintiffs in any lawsuit, at least not yet, although it's very possible that some or all of them could be. But at this point, there is no criminal exposure for the governor just based on this report. Attorney General Letitia James was asked if she made any criminal referral, and she said no, that there was no criminal consequence that she believed the governor would endure. Although it's possible that at some stage a prosecutor's office in New York State, either here in Manhattan, in Albany, at the Capitol, somewhere where maybe one of these alleged encounters occurred, it's possible that a prosecutor's office could look at it for possible criminal investigation. But we're not quite there yet, Kira.
Appreciate it. Aaron Katersky, everything happening in real time. Appreciate your insight and your help. I know you'll continue to stay on this story with us. Appreciate you. Thanks to Dan Abrams and also our Aaron Katersky getting us through the breaking news.